Good morning. Well, good evening, actually, but we're still good mornings with Michael. So here we are with the Bitcoin summation. Came down here to 66,501. It's trending a little higher right now. So that is what is going on with Bitcoin, and Ethereum is trending a little higher as well. So that is a story there. Let us go over to our word of the day. Just a little story about why our show is so late today. I had two shots. I had a flu shot and a COVID shot, and it has knocked me out for a couple of days here. So finally feeling a little better. So I had a terrible headache and I was incredibly sleepy. So that is the story with that one. Barcarolle is our word of the day, a song traditionally sung by Venetian gondoliers. So I hope to see one of those next month. Judy likes to sing the Barcarolle she learned in Venice while on her honeymoon. So that is our word of the day. Go over to us. There is talk that Microsoft will overtake NVIDIA as the most valuable big cap tech company next year. So we'll see if that indeed comes along. They have spent so much money on their AI development, automation software. So that is the story there. Amazon, all the big cap techs were down, but Tesla did rebound after they reported their earnings after hours. So real estate was up, utilities, healthcare, telecom services. So that is where we are on that chart. Let's go over to our charts. This has been our IPO of the day for a few days. Continues. Let me see if this is accurate for today. Yeah, it had a little bit of a sell-off today. As you would expect, a big move like that, it went up another 20% after I sold it, and I had already made 30% on it in about 2-3 weeks. So that is the story there. Let's go over to our dollar index. The dollar index just continues roaring. We've got a gap up in the dollar today. Look at all that volume buying in the dollar. It seems like a lot of nations want to reposition their cash in the U.S. economy. So we'll see how much longer that rotation continues to go on. Silver gaps down today. You would think that with a big gap up in the dollar, finally going in the direction you would think they would go based on the dollar's strength. Gold is pulling back as well. Copper pulls back to the 50-day moving average. Uranium, a big sell-off in uranium, pulls back to the 10-day moving average. Denison Mines pulls back to the 10-day as well, looks very similar. Just the dollar price is different, dollar and volume. Wheat kind of bouncing to get above the 50-day. Take a look at commodities. Look at the 10-year yield. Look at that big gap up again. 10-year just is surging. It's up over 4.24%. Big sell-off in bonds. And the 20-year is up not quite as much, up to 3.38, after hours to 3.39%. The VIX did get a nice little bounce here, bouncing off the 50-day moving average up to 1924. Is still pretty elevated. The election and all the wars going on. S&P 500 pulls back to the 20-day and bounces off 0.91%. And we got a pullback in the equal weight in the S&P 500, 0.33%. The NASDAQ pulls back to the 20-day, and the equal weight in the NASDAQ pulls back to the 50 and then bounces. IWM, I would think that would be a big pullback to the 50-day. It tries to bounce a little bit. Dow Jones pulls back to the 20-day. So the talk is that all these averages, yes, they're pulling back, but they're not totally losing everything. So they are still pretty close to highs. So some people think they're going to make all-time highs here eventually. So that is a story with them. K-Web selling off here in China. This other index, did that come up? It did. It pulls back here a little bit. We're getting a little tighter moves here, which is productive. We got financials are bouncing. Energy, we haven't looked at for a while, bouncing off the 50-day moving average. Oil prices are doing the same. We haven't looked at the gas fund for a long, long time, and it is up 2.37%. Communications pulling back a little bit. AT&T had their earnings today, and they pulled back to their 50-day, and they are soaring up 4.6%. So that is a picture there. Utilities got a nice little bounce there, gap up and a bounce. Real estate did the same thing. XBI is selling off here. The higher interest rates really hurts those small biotech companies. And here's the other ETF in biotech. AVE is bouncing from the 20-day moving average. Home builders continue to sell off below the 50-day. So consumer discretionary pulls back here, and then they kind of bounce after hours after the earnings from Tesla. There's retail, continue kind of declining. So P not doing too much. Healthcare continues to decline off about 0.5%. Software pulls back to the 20-day moving average. Semiconductors are like they got a little bounce off the 20-day, and they were up another 1.38 after hours. So XLB pulls back. Mining and metals continues to pull back towards the 20-day. Leisure activity declines. Jets are up slightly. FANG really sold off nearly 7% today. They are bouncing a little bit after hours. I'm just trying to think if I missed anything right there. So we'll go with that and keep moving on. We start with our earnings report. McDonald's shares fall after the CDC reports 10 people have been hospitalized, and one older person in Colorado has died from an E. coli infections linked to consuming McDonald's quarter pounder hamburger. Starbucks guidance will be suspended for the full year 2025, said directors. Approved an increase in quarterly cash dividend from 57 to 61 cents per share. Guides preliminary Q4 EPS below $1.03. Amazon said Wednesday that Prime members can now save 10 cents per gallon at about 7,000 gas stations operated by BP, British Petroleum, Amoco across the US. The company estimates the offer could save Prime members on average about $70 a year on their gas bill. Hilton, Q3 results mixed as EPS of $1.92 beat estimates, but revenue is $2.87 billion below $2.91 billion. The upper end of its annual room revenue growth forecasts to be between 2 and 2.5%. Stride in the education area. I had blown the size up on this news item because my eyes are, from the headaches and whatnot, have needed a little assistance. Learn, Stride, shares jump quarter one EPS 94 cents versus estimate 22 cents. Look at that huge gap up. Earnings are up 755%. The stock jumps nearly 40% in one day. USANA, Health Sciences, Q3 EPS 56 cents versus estimate 49 cents, and it's jumping. It's up 6%. 6% of the day, up $2.10. On to energy. Enphase shares tumble on miss and lower guidance. Q3 EPS 65 cents versus estimate of 77 cents, down nearly 15%. Solar space remains pressured. It says to look at these other companies as well. Solar Edge is down 15%. Sunrun is down only 1.35%. And Nova is down 3.65%. Matador Resources, Q3 adjusted EPS $1.99 versus estimate $1.72. Adjusted EBITDA $574.5 million versus estimate of $563.7 million. It's up slightly 0.85% on some pretty good volume, up 152%. Neighbors, Q3 adjusted EBITDA $221.7 million, revenue $731.8 million, and operating income $62.48 million, and the shares drop 1.75%. Range Sources, I'm just going to adjust the print again. Range Sources 48 cents versus 38 cents. Got a nice move, up 3.51%. Earnings up 4%. And finally, Weatherford, Q3 EPS. And now I guess I have my cursor in the wrong place. Weatherford. On Q3 EPS $2.06 versus $1.66. Revenues $141 billion versus estimate $142 billion. Initially moved up, but sold off another 3.35%. On to financials. America enters $100 million. I'm not sure what happened there. Disappeared here. We are back. CoStar. Now there's something wrong over here. So we got our cursor back in the right place. Comerica enters $100 million accelerated share buyback agreement, and it pulls back to the 10-day moving average off 0.47%. CoStar Group, Q3 EPS 13 cents versus estimate of 16 cents. Gaps down 5.27%. Deutsche Bank said it's on track to meet its targets for the year after reporting a better than expected rise in Q3 profit. Deutsche Bank posted Q3 after-tax profit of 1.67 billion euros, a 39% jump year over year. Innova, Q3 EPS adjusted 2.45% versus 2.31%. Initially moved higher and then sold off 1.89%. PennyMac Financial Services, Q3 adjusted pre-tax $151.4 million versus estimate $193.6 million. Gaps down on that news, down 3.5%. Retail Opportunity, Q3 FFO a share 25 cents versus 26 cents. Initially sold off, and one figure, they bounced back 1.4%, but don't take that to the bank because sometimes it takes them 2-3 days to kind of go through the numbers. We are back after adjusting news. John Bean Technologies, Q3 EPS $1.50 versus $1.41. Look at that move, up 17.73%. Earnings up 35%. Makes food processing machinery and ground-based airport equipment. That is pretty amazing. Packaging Corp, Q3 adjusted EPS $2.65 versus $2.50. They gap up as well. Looks like food is the place to be right now, except in McDonald's. Vicor Corporation, 26 cents versus 14 cents. And it jumps up 13.7%, up on 708% volume. Technology, media, and telecom. Qualcomm. We haven't talked about Qualcomm for a while. Shares down 5%. We're down 5% pre-market before the open today, after ARM Holdings said it is canceling an architectural license agreement that allows Qualcomm to use intellectual property to design chips. So they were down about 3.8%, a little less than they were pre-market. Manhattan Associates, Q3 adjusted EPS $1.35 versus $1.06. Estimate, and you would think they would be up, but no, they're not. A huge gap down below the 50-day moving average, off 7.17%. Their earnings were up 29%. So on to Seagate Technology, Q1 EPS $1.58 versus estimate $1.49. They're selling off 8% today. Texas Instruments, Q3 EPS $1.47 versus estimate $1.38, down 21%. Vertiv shares fall pre-market. Q3 adjusted EPS 76 cents versus 69 cents. And they bounced back a little bit. They faltered 20-day. Let us take a look at on semiconductor. They're up slightly today, up 2.15%, and XPI. And they are gapping up today. So that is a story on those two. And finally, AT&T, I believe we looked at this in a prior run-up. Reported Q3 revenue that missed estimates but maintained its full year earnings guidance. Q3 EPS 60 cents, beats 57-cent estimate, while revenue for the quarter $30.2 billion just missed Wall Street expectations for $30.4 billion. And that is our news for the day. So let's go over here. Even though it's not morning, we'll still do our morning routine. We already looked at Stride in the news. Lithia up 10% on 278% increase in volume. Their earnings came in a negative 11%, but they still are on the upswing. And we did look at John Bean. Let's see if there's anything of note. Valmont Industries continues. It's up 10.4% on 9% increase. No, it's actually 0%. So that was a 2.62% surprise. Herc Holdings. They continue on their strong move yesterday, up another 5%. Teledyne Technologies up 6%. Packaging Corporation America, we did look at that. East West Bancorp. It gaps up and then pulls back near its low for the day. Vicor, look at that huge move. So if you bought this, as long as it holds the bottom of this would be a hold. It's up 13.7% on that news. Looked at John Dean already. Looked at Stride. Tommy Financial is up 7.1%, 247% increase in volume. Their earnings came in at negative 21%. Lee Enterprises, look at that. It just is skyrocketing. Look at this one here. pull back here, stretched. We got a pull back here, and then it broke out again. Up 11.32% today. Owns and publishes 75 daily newspapers in 26 states. We looked at lithium motors. We're on to Flex Steel. And it is up 6.86% on 244% increase in volume. National Bank and Element Solutions up 9.21%. DACO New Energy gaps up 6.77%. Invitive Therapeutics, it's up 9.25%, develops orally administered small molecule drug candidates targeting diabetes in patients. So we already looked at Vertiv, which was one of our stocks. We'll just look at the big cap tech. NVIDIA pulls back to its 10-day moving average. Tesla was down in the day, but bounced about 26 points after hours, up 12%. So I think that's going to be up in the morning. Netflix selling off here a little bit, off about 2%. Meta is pulling back. Google, I kind of like the formation that Google is setting up. Pretty tight formation, right around the 10 and 20-day moving average. Could put the 50-day in there as well. Amazon, it's pulling out of that tight formation. We don't like that so much. Apple, going to pull back to the 20-day on Apple, down 2% today. Microsoft, who they think are going to overtake NVIDIA next year, down 0.68%. So that is where we are there. Oracle is pulling back. We did get out of Oracle. We got out of most everything last week. So NVIDIA, Meta, CVRT, still have AMSC, pulls back to the 50-day moving average. Elf Beauty, we still have, it's down a little bit today, down close to 1%. Celsius, we have options in all of these, down about 5%. We have them 3 months out, so we'll just see where they go if they ever really hit bottom and bounce. And that we still have BitX. Pulls back to the 20-day moving average off 3.29%. And we have cores. Pull back in cores to the 10-day and then bounces. So that will be what we're currently doing. Hope everybody has a great evening, and we'll try to be back on our morning schedule tomorrow. Everybody go out there, make a difference. Try to make everybody smile, meet along the way. Continue to work on your goals and amaze all those around you. Keep working on your activities so you can meet those goals. And if we can help you with any of your financial activities or your financial goals, please reach out to us in the comment section. In the meantime, go well and prosper.